Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, text 55. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha. Rajahati yada kaman. Rajahati yada kaman. Sarvan partha manogatan. Sarvan partha manogatan. Atmanyevatmana tushta. Atmanyevatmana tushta. Sthita prajnastaduchyate. Sthita prajnastaduchyate. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha. Rajahati yada kaman. Sarvan partha manogatan. Atmanyevatmana tushta. Sthita prajnastaduchyate. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said. Is there repeating on Sunday? Right? Yeah. Who would like to repeat?
Shri Bhagavan Uvacha.
Shri Bhagavan Uvacha. Rajahati yada kaman. Sarvan partha manogatan. Atmanyevatmana tushta. Sthita prajnastaduchyate. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha. Rajahati yada kaman.
Shri Bhagavan Uvacha.
Shri Bhagavan Uvacha.
Rajahati yada kaman.
Rajahati yada kaman.
Sarvan partha manogatan.
Partha manogatan.
Atmanyevatmana tushta.
Atmanyevatmana tushta.
Prajnastaduchyate.
Sthita prajnastaduchyate. Mataji. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha. Prajahati yada kaman. Sarvan partha manogatan. Atmanyevatmana tushta. Sthita prajnastaduchyate. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha. Yada kaman. Sarva partha manogatan. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha. Yada kaman. Sarva partha manogatan. Atmanyevatmana tushta. Sthita prajnastaduchyate. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, Prajahati gives up. Yada, when. Kaman, desires for sense gratification. Sarvan, of all varieties. Partha, O son of Pritha, Manahagatan, of mental concoction, Atmani, in the pure state of the soul, Eva, certainly, Atmana, by the purified mind, Tushtaha, satisfied, Sthita Pragnaha, transcendentally situated, Tada, at that time, Uchyate, is said. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Sri Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki. The Blessed Lord said, O Partha, when a man gives up all varieties of sense desire which arise from mental concoction, and when his mind finds satisfaction in the self alone, then he is said to be in pure transcendental consciousness. Please repeat. The Blessed Lord said, O Partha, when a man gives up all varieties of sense desire which arise from mental concoction, and when his mind finds satisfaction in the self alone, then he is said to be in pure transcendental consciousness. Purport. The Bhagavatam affirms that any person who is fully in Krishna consciousness or devotional service of the Lord has all the good qualities of the great sages, whereas a person who is not so transcendentally situated has no good qualifications, because he is sure to be taking refuge in his own mental concoctions. Consequently, it is rightly said herein that one has to give up all kinds of sense desire manufactured by mental concoction. Artificially, such sense desires cannot be stopped. But if one is engaged in Krishna consciousness, then automatically sense desires subside without extraneous efforts. Therefore, one has to engage himself in Krishna consciousness without hesitation, for this devotional service will instantly help one on to the platform of transcendental consciousness. The highly developed soul always remains satisfied in himself by realizing himself as the eternal servitor of the Supreme Lord. Such a transcendentally situated person has no sense desires resulting from petty materialism. Rather, he remains always happy in his natural position of eternally serving the Supreme Lord. The Blessed Lord said, O Partha, when a man gives up all varieties of sense desire which arise from mental concoction, and when his mind finds satisfaction in the self alone, then he is said to be in pure transcendental consciousness. So, this verse speaks about completely giving up sense gratification. So what is this sense gratification? We have got senses that are biting us in the sense that there is an urge that is there. Vegam. So we have got these urges in our senses that are always trying to rule over our lives. Is it not? We are being brought left and right, following them, being led into different situations. So this represents our material body. We have got 5 horses, the 5 senses. The reins is the mind, the driver is the intelligence. And we are at the back here, observing all this. And we are being led to different destinations that we actually do not want to go to. Because of our uncontrolled senses, we are put into so many predicaments. Is it not? And we have got some desires, and because of that, we have to follow, we have to work hard. And we are put into distresses, one after another. All because we've got this desire to enjoy our senses. So what will we have? We have the sight, the eyes, the nose, the ears, the touch, and the tongue. So these are compared to 5 different horses. And they're wild, they're not under control. Because at the moment we are called Godasa. At least myself, I'm definitely a Godasa, not controlling my senses. I'm a servant of the senses. But the whole idea is to become a Goswami, someone who controls the senses. And how to do that? It's not by an artificial means, artificial means. It's by constantly switching the activities of the senses. And only like this we will be able to control the senses, not otherwise. So that's why the temple is so important, because in the temple there's a variety of services that will keep us engaged 24 hours a day, for those who are willing. When you come to the temple, there's always something to do. You can make garlands, you can cook, you can study Shastra, you can listen, you can give class. So many engagements are always there. So in this way, the frivolous nature of the senses is being satisfied, because our senses are always looking to be engaged in doing something. Krishna says one can never stop from doing something, not even for a moment. Even if the physical body is not moving, the mind is still going about. So the whole idea is to purify those senses so that they become appeased. Just like wild horses, when you catch them, they're very much furious and wild and they don't listen to you. But after a while, when you tame them, they become subdued. So Srila Prabhupada says in the purport here, but if one is engaged in Krishna consciousness, then automatically sense desires subside without extraneous effort. And that is the test. Actually, the whole idea is to give up sense enjoyment. And that has to be something that is realized, something genuine within the heart that disappears. Then we see that, yes, I'm making progress. So just like now, we had a very firing kirtan, Tadvavit Prabhu is leading. So if we replace our mundane activities with such activities, then it's possible. Otherwise, it's not. On our own, Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that I have no strength to carry on my bhajan alone. But there's a great instruction there. We are not meant to be alone performing this devotional service. Devotional life is something that is meant to be in company with others. You see, like just now, where do you find a place like this? That everybody is singing, dancing, jumping, so happy. There's no intoxication involved. The children are so happy, is it not? And why are we feeling so good? As opposed to workplace, shopping mall. What is the difference? Of course, Krishna is the center, but what is it that frees the heart? There is no envy. When we engage in Krishna Katha, when we chant Hare Krishna like that, in the association of devotees, the envy within the heart finally disappears. Because we're envious of one another. That's the disease, Why is this person more beautiful than me? Why is this person having more money than me? Why is this person not losing hair when I'm losing hair? Why is this person, so many varieties. Why does this person have more beautiful skin than me, like that? So envy will always be there as long as the desire for sense gratification remains within the heart. So that means that most of us, at least definitely myself, I must still be envious. See? But the thing is that envy has always been there, and therefore we do not know what it means to be not envious. We have not felt what an open heart is, a heart that is simply devoid, completely devoid of envy for all living entities, and that simply desires to serve others. Every single living entity. At one point, Srila Prabhupada had one of his disciples in his office, and he asked the disciple, he said, you see this ant? There was an ant on the table. Of course, something funny related, the disciple did not see the ant. So he was like, oh, where's the ant? And then Srila Prabhupada said, what is my duty to this ant? So you see the type of thought that a pure devotee is having. He is considering how to help the ant even. So when he sees another living entity, his idea is not like to exploit that living entity or to not care. You're a botheration, you're a hindrance to my sense gratification, right? Like, annoying ant, get out of my kitchen, praying, right? We do these things, is it not? Why? Because envy is still there for these living entities. You cannot perform violence to another living entity without envy in your heart. So, Prabhupada said, what is my duty to this ant? So the disciple obviously he did not even see the end, so how to reply even. So Prabhupada says, I need to know how to help this ant. See. So this is the heart of a personality that is freed from envy. And this is what is disturbing us always. Why? Okay, when we meet people, right? We're in a group of people, there's always some little, at least I'm feeling, like discomfort. Is it not? Like you meet people, you talk to one another, yet there's always something that is like, doesn't feel right somehow. What is that? We're not acting on the platform, the spiritual platform. We're not acting as, I'm an eternal servant of the Lord, and here's another servant of the Lord. How can I help that person? We see like others, someone is coming to talk to me, I wanted to go back home and lie down. He's an hindrance to my sense gratification. Or we see others as competitors. We're trying to fight for this world. I want to be the most beautiful, I want to be the most learned, and this, and so everybody is my competitor. But when one starts to get the heart purified and that those material desires subside and start to go away, then one starts to genuinely want to help others. And that's a proof of spiritual advancement, wanting to help others. So someone who's actually intelligent doesn't take part in this sense gratificationary business that is spoken here. Yehi sampashta jabhoga dukkha yunaya hevate adyanta vantah kamteya nate shuramate buddha. An intelligent person does not take part in the sources of misery, which are due to contact with the material senses. O son of Kunti, such pleasures have a beginning and an end, and so the wise man does not delight in them. So, source of misery. This is very hard to see, because Krishna's Maya works in such a subtle way that it's practically impossible to understand causes and effect. What I mean by that is that here the Lord is saying, what is the source of misery? Why are we suffering in our life? Right? Why are we having headache, skin disease, mental illness, depression, whatever it is? It's because we engage in sense gratification. We misunderstand this world to be meant for our enjoyment. Right? When we see a beautiful hill, wow, such a beautiful hill, let me go take a walk on it. We think that the entire hill is created for me to walk on it and enjoy it. So we have this conception that the world is meant for our grasping it, enjoying it to the best. And that's how we become entangled. And to realize this more and more, we have to come in the association of devotees. We have to learn, we have to see the devotees, how they are renounced, how they are living simply, how they dedicate their life to Krishna. Materialistic people, they have a hard time to understand why, for them we're wasting time. Just like in the morning, how long do you think it takes to serve their lordships like that, to dress, change the whole dress the flower? Many hours, and a couple of hours, and many of the devotees are engaged every single morning. So you can be thinking, what's the use of all this? Decorating the Lord, offering flowers? Because for us, for the conditioned souls like us, productivity means getting closer to enjoying our senses. That is productivity. When I say I'm not productive today, that means I haven't, make some cash. I didn't get closer to my goal to enjoy. I haven't been productive. But there's no material gain, yet there's a spiritual gain. Is that the heart becomes cleansed and one gets closer and closer to his relationship with God. So we live in a great delusion, thinking that we're going to remain here always. So we have to pierce through that. And how to do this? We have to hear. We have to hear from Srila Prabhupada. We have to hear from the devotees again and again and repeat again and again. And be engaged in service, practical application, so that there's no chance to slip out. Srila Srila Prabhupada says in the purport, material sense pleasures are due to the contact of the material senses, which are all temporary because the body itself is temporary. Yeah, so we can see that when one gets old, as one gets older and older and older, the senses themselves are starting to break down. Sometimes an old person loses the sight, sometimes the voice doesn't function very well, the ear doesn't function. So we can see that the senses are breaking down one by one. They are not eternal. Not to speak of just the body being finished. Prior to that, we can see that the senses are being withdrawn. They're being broken. But still, we try to clinch on it as much as possible. In my beginning of Krishna consciousness, when I was starting to read Srila Prabhupada's books, at one point, I did not understand the principle of asat sanga tyag, which means to not associate with those who are not devotees. So I went to a restaurant with my sister at that time, and in the beginning it was very hard. I was alone and I did not know what was what. I was just reading and chanting a little bit and trying to figure it out. So my sister invited me to this restaurant, and my sister, we are born in a devotee family. So my sister's name is Krishnamrita, and she called an old friend of her that was from childhood, whose name was Rukmini. So she was also a devotee from the temple. And here I was, starting to read Prabhupada books, getting knowledge, and then I sat in that restaurant with them, and they ordered some wine, both of them, my sister and that girl. So my head started to spin, literally. I started to feel dizzy, So I had no guidance. So then they started to drink like this, and they started to talk, so I really felt so uncomfortable, And then I saw these old people that were there. They were relatively old, nearing their 80s, and they ordered some pizza or some meat, and I could see that the last sense to last is the tongue, because the other senses, they all break down. You cannot run anymore, you cannot go for a hike, you cannot do these things, sex life is finished, but the tongue remains. And I could see how they were so much dwelling into their meal and order, and they were eating a lot. They ordered like big pizza. So then I was hearing Prabhupada speaking, sense gratification, and then I just stood up and I almost vomited, and I went in the bathroom and my head was spinning like that. And then my brother-in-law came and he knocked. He said, "Hey man, are you okay? What's going on?" I said, "I'm okay, you just go back." So you can see the contrast between material sense gratification and a devotee's life. It's like day and night, complete. So I went back, I lived hell for an hour or two, and then I went back home and I understood that I should not accept invitation from karmis. But this is the whole we are not the same. A devotee and a non-devotee are different persons, see. A devotee wants to be freed from this embarrassment of the senses, because it's embarrassing. I was looking at these people, not even them, even us, right? Our tongue. Are we controlling our tongue? We know that we should only eat Krishna Prasadam. Sometimes some snack is there, we want it. So we are forced to be. It's very embarrassing. We are not in control of our lives. We don't decide, I'm going to do this, I'm not going to do that. Now I'm going to go there, I'm going to do. No, we're being led by the senses. A liberated soul is not interested in anything which is temporary, knowing well the joys of transcendental pleasures. How can a liberated soul agree to enjoy false pleasure? In the Padma Purana it is said, Ramante yogino nante satyananda chidatmani iti rama padesha padenasho param brahma bhidhiyate. The mystics derive unlimited transcendental pleasures from the absolute truth, and therefore the supreme absolute truth, the personality of Godhead, is also known as Rama. In the Srimad Bhagavatam also it is said, Nayam deho deha bhajam nriloke kashtan kaman arhate vidbhajam ye tapodivyam putrakayena sadvam shuddhe asmad brahma saukyam tvanantam. My dear sons, there is no reason to labor very hard for sense pleasure while in this human form of life. Such pleasures are available to the stool eaters, hogs. Rather, you should undergo penances in this life by which your existence will be purified. and as a result, you will be able to enjoy unlimited transcendental bliss. So this sense gratification is available in every species of life. And in fact, some of them have got better facility than us. Like, of course, the hogs here are being mentioned. Hogs are eating their own stool. So that means there is pleasure there. Even by eating stool, they derive some pleasure. Otherwise, why they're eating it? You cannot do something that you dislike. So that means they have a special tongue that makes stool taste like samosa. It's a fact, because that means, they like it, they enjoy it. So that means it's very easy for them to enjoy the tongue. And also, sex life, the dogs, they don't need to go to the motel, hotel, all these things. In the street, they can perform. So more easily access to this sense gratification. So the purpose of human life is not to continue this business. Human life is a junction. People don't know that. They think human life, and they say we're also an animal, social animal, Homo sapien, they say. But no, human life is a junction. As opposed to animals, we have a choice. We have a choice to get freed from this cycle of birth and death, or go back into the animal kingdom. And again, this is hellish. To be an animal, to be an insect, to be a bird, this is very hellish. People think that birds are happy because they fly in the sky. What happiness is there? When they eat, you can see how anxious they are. Every little sound, they turn their head, Can you imagine someone who's eating his meal and every something he's always jumping? That means anxiety, fear is always in the heart. Therefore, those who are true yogis or learned transcendentalists are not attracted by sense pleasures, which are the causes of continuous material existence. The more one is addicted to material pleasures, the more he is entrapped by material miseries. So when we engage in sense gratification, we are planting the seed of future unhappiness. We are going to be suffering in the future. Compound interest. We take now so-called enjoyment, and I will have to get something in the future. So a headache or whatever it is, there's a specific cause. There's something specific that we have done in the past, this life or past lives, to deserve this suffering. So here, the verses quoted above, Srila Prabhupada speaks here, Ramante, you see. So this pleasure, we should be sincerely trying to understand that how can I get it with Krishna? How can I get it with this devotional service? Because it's one thing to do it externally, but to actually feel true spiritual happiness is something else. To be absorbed in the service and to do it really heartfeltly is different than to do it mechanically. And as long as we still have desires for sense gratification or liberation, it will always be mechanical. That's spoken here in the CC. Yeah. Bhukti mukti adi vancha yadi man hai, sadhana karile prema utpanna na hai. If one is infected with a desire for material enjoyment or material liberation, he cannot rise to the platform of pure loving service unto the Lord, even though he may superficially render devotional service according to the routine regulative principles. So, those of us who have started this process of devotional service, there is now further steps that we should be aiming for. We should be thinking about how to develop genuine love for Krishna, how to reach those stages where one will actually feel, softening heart. So I think in that purport, Prabhupada speaks of rati, which we will come to. But you see, actually superficially render devotional service according to the routine regulative principles, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu rejected that. When he had of course, this is the beginning. We all start from there. But when he was speaking with Ramananda Rai about the ultimate goal of life, Ramananda Rai introduced, Karma Yoga, Jnana, like that. And even up to the point of regulated devotional service, this here, sadhana bhakti. And Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said this is external, go further. And then Ramananda Rai started to speak about Raganuga Bhakti, spontaneous devotion with real feelings that Krishna is so beautiful, let me serve him, let me cook for him, let me do something for him. Something that is real, not just I'm coming to the temple to cook and this and that. So, and then from that point onward, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu approved. He said, yes, now this is real. Now keep going. So, if one is infected with a desire for material enjoyment or material liberation, we should also not want to be freed from the cycle of birth and death. This material world is horrible. Now let me get out of here. Of course, that's better. That's definitely better than wanting to enjoy this material world, because one has developed knowledge of the nature of this world. But still, it is one's wanting. It's me. I want to get freed from jail. See, it's not based on love of God. Purport. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur mentions that if one maintains within his heart the desire to enjoy the result of good work, or being embarrassed by the material world, the desire to get out of material entanglement, one will never be able to attain the transcendental mellows of devotional service. So we walk a fine line, you see, especially those of us who are married. Grihastas, we've got wives, we've got children. We're vacillating between these two. Most often, is it not? Oh, my wife is so nice, she's cooking nicely. Actually, I'm happy in family life, children are beautiful, like that. Then there's some disturbance in the relationship with the wife, or the children cry day and night. What is this family life? So you go the other way. You want to be liberated. Right? So one is, you're comfortable, we want to enjoy. The other, when is the saffron color coming? So that's also wrong. That's also bad, because we are, in our social position, we should be acting accordingly and pray to the Lord to slowly become purified. Purification, liberation is within. It's not without. It's not outside. It's inside. Of course, again, one should not use that as an excuse that Prabhu liberation is inside. I'll stay until then. So you see, we go between both. Enjoyment, rejection. Enjoyment, rejection. That's the mind. The mind's business is accepting and rejecting. The very same thing, right? Hey, let's go into a trip with the family, it'll be nice. Let's go to the island, it'll be nice. And then you drive there, traffic is there, and it's so hot. And the very same thing that you desire, next moment you don't want it. You want to reject it. That's the business of the mind. So one should come to the point of desire only what Krishna wants. Krishna and his representative. In other words, one must not desire material profit when rendering devotional service. Even if one follows all the 64 regulative principles, he cannot attain pure devotional service with a contaminated heart. That's a huge statement. There are 64 regulative principles. I believe those are starting with entering the temple with shoes, right? That's the one, right? Yeah. So in Seva Parat, in the service of the deity, there are 64 offenses that we have to avoid. Srila Prabhupada is saying here that even if you avoid those 64 offenses, you cannot attain pure devotional service if your heart stays contaminated. So the next verse, Bhukti Mukti Sprihayavat Pishachi Ridi Vartate Tavat Bhakti Sukhasyatra Katham Abhyudayo Bhave. The material desire to enjoy the material world and the desire to become liberated from the material bondage are considered to be two witches, and they haunt one like ghosts. As long as these witches remain within the heart, how can one feel transcendental bliss? As long as these two witches remain in the heart, there's no possibility of enjoying the transcendental bliss of devotional service. So we should tell ourselves, I should also tell myself, how long we want to remain in this external devotional service and not being sincerely trying to boil down, remove those anarthas that are within the heart and simply surrender to Prabhupada. Whatever Prabhupada wants me to do, let me do with the best of my ability. Okay, so where is this? What speaks of Rati? Yeah, okay. Sadhana bhakti haite ay rati ra uday rati gadha hayalatar prema namakai. So before prema comes, there's rati. That stage we should at least, we should go step by step. So we should try to get to that. By regularly rendering devotional service, one gradually becomes attached to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. When that attachment is intensified, it becomes love of Godhead. So that attachment we have to develop. And how is that? Well, this is the sadhana bhakti process. But one has to be serious. And seriously means I must hear. When we hear classes, when we hear Srila Prabhupada's lectures, we should pay attention. What is he saying? He's trying to wake me up. But we choose to listen to the mind most of the time. I know better. The Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 122 gives the following information about sadhana bhakti. Kriti sadhya bhavit sadhya bhavasa sadhana bidha. Nitya siddhasya bhavasya prakatyam mridi sadhyatha. The process of devotional service beginning with chanting and hearing is called sadhana bhakti. This includes the regulative principles that are intended to awaken one to devotional service. So you see here, awaken one to devotional service. So sometimes sadhana bhakti is spoken as devotional service, and sometimes it is set aside as not being real devotional service yet. Devotional service is always dormant in everyone's heart, and by the offenseless chanting of the holy names of the Lord, one's original dormant Krishna consciousness is awakened. This awakening to Krishna consciousness is the beginning of sadhana bhakti. This can be divided into many different parts, including faith, association with devotees, initiation by the spiritual master, engagement in devotional service under the instructions of a spiritual master, steadiness in devotional service, and the awakening of a taste for devotional service. So this is the verse, Adav Shraddha. So this stays here, we must come to that. Otherwise, what's the point? We're doing all these things, and if we're not seeking to actually, develop a taste for it. In this way, one can become attached to Krishna and his service. And when this attachment is intensified, it results in ecstatic love for Krishna. The word Rati is explained in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Now, this is important because it describes what Rati will be. Vyaktam mas renat evantar lakshyate rati lakshanam mumukshu prabritinam chet bhavatesha ratir nahi. When a tenderness of the heart is manifested, there is rati or attachment. But those who are interested in being liberated from material bondage will not manifest this tenderness. You see, so the heart must become tender. We must be we must reach this stage where we will feel genuine feelings within the heart that will, of course, I don't want to be speaking more than Sri Rupa Goswami. Here it is said, the heart is supposed to become tender. This attachment is not like material attachment. When one is free of material contamination, attachment for Krishna's service awakens and is called rati. In the material world, there is attachment for material enjoyment, but this is not rati. Transcendental rati can be awakened only on the spiritual platform. And of course, after that comes prema. So, when the heart is completely softened and devoid of all material desires, and when one's emotional feelings become very strong, one becomes very much attached to Krishna. Such purified emotion is known as pure love. So, of course, I'm more concerned with the rati stage for now, prema stage. But this is it, you see. And so by seriously hearing, by seriously chanting, this chanting, Hare Krishna chanting, Prabhupada says, this is it. We have to, without offenseless chanting of the holy name of the Lord. So a good way to start, how to start, we should give up doing something else while chanting. That's a good start. Because we all do it, right? You chant and then the phone is there, notification, and you get dragged into something, and then you chant a couple of rounds like that, and then you're like, ugh, what kind of quality chanting is that? Then you go and, Actually, we should try to chant our full rounds, with as much, at least freed from distraction. Of course, the mind might be there, but at least external distractions like that. Until what time? I have to. Yeah. So this is the aim, you see, to develop the genuine taste for this devotional service. Srila Prabhupada states that first there is a taste for the service. Prior to attachment to Krishna, there is a taste for the service itself. One will start to like doing devotional service, and that's a good sign. That is very good. When one starts to enjoy doing service and he's asking, is there something I can do? Can I do like this? Can I do like... So, serving the deity like this. So then he enjoys the service itself. Then that taste will be transformed into slowly attachment to Krishna. One will start to do the service for Krishna. Because has Krishna eaten? I need to cook something like that. So these emotions will gradually, step by step, emerge. But this comes with offense-left chanting and by giving up this business of Sanskritification. Coming back to this, envy in the heart due to Sanskritification. Narada Muni instructing Maharaj Parikshit, 7:15. Right? To give up envy. Yeah. So this is 7:15:23. Anvikshikya shlokamoho dambham mahadupasya yogantarayan maunena himsam kamadhyanihaya. Himsam kamadhyanihaya. Himsam, envy. Kama adi, for Sanskritification. Anihaya, without endeavor. By discussing spiritual knowledge, one can conquer lamentation and illusion. You see, like when we lose a dear one. Someone passes away in the family, we feel very much saddened and bewildered. But then if we come to the devotees will preach, look, it's not the material body, the soul is still there, like that. So you discuss spiritual knowledge and then you feel some relief. By serving a great devotee, one can become prideless. So how to become prideless, how to become humble, service to the devotees. By keeping silent, one can avoid obstacles on the path of mystic yoga. And simply by stopping sense gratification, one can conquer envy. So that's the secret, how to free our heart from this envious mentality. We have to stop engaging in sense gratification. And the epitome of sense gratification is this sex life, right? So, of course, sex life is not just the act itself, it's everything related to the dealings of men and women together. So, for us who are married, this is the challenge. How to deal with family and with wife and children, but not dwelling within the comfort of grihastha. How to do out of duty. How to show kindness and tenderness to the wife and children out of duty and not out of attachment, wanting to enjoy the wife and enjoy the company of the children. Of course, it's natural. It's not that this can be done overnight and artificially. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that genuine detachment for family life comes at the stage of bhava. That means at that stage, it will be real, that one will completely lose taste for family life. Prior to that, we cannot artificially say, my wife, my children. No. One has to perform the regulative duties of husband and father. So, but this is the key here. By good behavior and freedom from envy, one should counteract sufferings due to other living entities. So if one becomes non-envious, then others will not bother us, because we're not envious. Just like if your child does something to you, you're not envious of your child. You're not bothered. You know that, okay, he's just a child, he's just a baby or what. So similarly, if one becomes non-envious of other living entities, he will have a genuine intimacy with other living entities. Srila Prabhupada says that the Mahabhagavat feels an intimate relationship with every single living entity. So, by discussing this on these qualities of great personalities, we can understand what is our position in relation to them. So we've got a long way to go, but it's possible. It's possible to do it according to one's seriousness in bhakti, according to how much we want to progress. Dress code. $9.24. So Srila Prabhupada writes in this purport of 2924, in executing penance, one must be determined to return home, back to Godhead, and must decide to undergo all types of tribulations for that end. Even for material prosperity, name and fame, one has to undergo severe types of penance. Otherwise, no one can become an important figure in this material world. Why then are there severe types of penance for the perfection of devotional service? An easygoing life and attainment of perfection and transcendental realization cannot go together. The Lord is more clever than any living entity. Therefore, He wants to see how painstaking the devotee is in devotional service. The order is received from the Lord, either directly or through the bona fide spiritual master. And to execute that order, however painstaking, is the severe type of penance. One who follows the principle rigidly is sure to achieve success in attaining the Lord's mercy. So you see, actually, this is, one can ponder upon that why Krishna is putting, difficulties in devotional service. Sometimes, like here we were trying to acquire a temple, so there were some complications. So much struggle is there. Krishna is the master of the three worlds. He can give us a temple easily. That's not hard for Him. He can tell a millionaire to run in here and, give us millions of dollars. He can do these things. But why He's letting us work so hard to get these things? So here, He wants to test our sincerity. How much are we serious in this devotional service? You see, here Prabhupada used the word painstaking. He wants to see how painstaking the devotee is in devotional service. So those who want this easygoing lifestyle in devotional service, they're not very much sincere in reviving the relationship with Krishna. So one should be happy to undergo tribulation for the service of the Lord, because tribulations are there anyway. Are you telling me that at work there's no tribulations? Everything is nice and easy and go sitting 8 hours in front of a computer, having some boss telling you to fill so many numbers, and this is not painstaking? It is. So why not take the same pain but for the Lord? Painstaking activity must be there, because this is the material world. We cannot survive without work, without labor. So the Lord is testing according to the degree of intensity and desire to advance. The Lord will reciprocate. That greed to actually advance in devotional service and to get to know Krishna. Jai Shri Shri Radha Madan Mohan ki jai. You see, sadhana bhakti is based on faith. How much faith we have in the words of the spiritual master. But to come to spontaneous devotional service, it's based on greed. Not material greed, spiritual greed on how much I want to get this, how much I want to try to have a relationship with the Lord. These are very advanced stage, we're not really qualified to speak much about that, but we can repeat what we learn. This is a quote by Srila Madhavacharya. No notes. Let's make it bigger. Srila Madhavacharya says, Yasya samyak bhagavati jnanam bhaktis tathaivacha nischintas tasya mokshasya sarva papa kritopitu. For one who very seriously practices devotional service during his lifetime in order to understand the constitutional position of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, liberation from this material world is guaranteed, even if he has previously been addicted to sinful habits. So that shows that it's possible to become liberated in this life, even if one was sinful. This is a note on seriousness, so we can read. This is the Conversation 1977, January. This is 1976, anyway. Prabhupada says, so it is Krishna's mercy. You can do all kinds of opposition, but we shall go forward. The caravan will pass, you may balk. So take all these things as Krishna's mercies and engage more enthusiastically. Why should we be defeated? Yudhyasva mamanusmara. Just remember Krishna and fight. Bas. Fighting is. This material world is fighting. Manahas shashtanindriyani prakriti sthani nikarshati. The karshati is struggle, but struggle for Krishna. That is perfection. That's all. So to struggle, to try to endeavor more and more and more, and not just think about our eating and sleeping. We should bash our head and try, when will I realize this? When will I be seriously trying to progress in devotional life, and not just try to make a show of it, or just come here formally, sit down formally, offer arati formally, like that. But when I will have this desire to diminish my desire for sense gratification and simply be attached to Krishna. Another conversation here, 1972. Does this take a whole lifetime to learn? It takes only 1 minute, laughter, if you are serious. But if you are not serious, it will not be understood. Even millions of years, that is the fact. I see, it's so simple then. If you are serious, then it is 1 minute's business. And if you are not serious, it is not fulfilled in millions of years. I see. What determines, Srila Prabhupada, if one is serious or one is not serious? What makes one? Well, this seriousness comes after many, many births. It is also not so easy. Rupa Goswami says, Tatra laulyam api mulyam ekalam janma koti sukritair nalabhyate. He wrote a verse, Krishna bhakti rasa bhavita matihi kriyatam yadikuto pi labhyate. The Krishna bhakti, Krishna consciousness, this thing, if you can purchase somewhere, just immediately purchase it. Krishna bhakti rasa bhavita matihi kriyatam. Just purchase. Yadi kutopi labhyate. First of all, if you want to purchase, the things must be available. Yadi kuto, therefore kutopi. If it is available, immediately purchase. Then next question is, what is the value? What is the price I have to pay? Then he said, Tatra laulyam mekalam mulyam. Simply your seriousness, your serious eagerness to have it. That is the price. So laulyam actually is translation. The word by word translation is greed. So Prabhupada says to be very, very eager, so very greedy to get it. When would I, become freed from this desire for sense gratification? I will only desire things that will get me nearer to Krishna. Oh, that I have very easily. No, janma koti, sukritai na labhyate. That laulyam, that seriousness is not obtained after thousands of years pious activities. It is so difficult. Janma koti sukritai na labhyate. People are acting piously, but that kind of seriousness is not available even after executing pious activities for thousands of lives. So that seriousness is also very difficult. To become very serious that in this life I shall finish my business and go home back to Godhead. Bahunam janmanamante gyanavan mam prapaditi. Krishna says after many, many births, when actually one becomes in knowledge, he surrenders unto me. So this determination to not be brought back into what situation? This one. Does that look like a nice place to be? I I spent 5 months in Australia with Chaitanya Lila Prabhu and Karunamai Mataji. So they have 3 boys. We have 2 children, 1 boy, 1 girl. So it was 5 children, and our 2 babies, the 2 years old, are tough to deal with. You know, they cry a lot, very loudly. So every day, for 5 months, I was hearing, both of them, and I was thinking, actually, it's horrible to be a baby. Of course, you see them play, but it's always up and down, up and down. They go through so much shift of emotion. One day, 1 minute they're like super happy about. Next moment, they cry like anything. Of course, we laugh because it happens every day. They're like, but they don't laugh. They really feel pain. Otherwise, why are they crying so much, so loud? He took my toy. The end of the universe. Crying like anything, disturb the whole world. So why are they like this? Because they feel great pain in their heart. When they cry, they're very, very sad. They think like everything is finished. Of course, it can be shifted very easily. Here's ice cream. So up and down every day. For years, it's like this. So if we don't make it, we're going to be put into that body again. And that's going to be our business. Breaking everybody's ears. So, do we want to do that again? Like, just think about our lives, our childhood. Do you want to do it again? I don't want to be going to that school again and, having these children bully me and this and that. Whoa, that was a tough time. I don't want to start that again, but here we're laughing, but most of us are going to do it again. I don't think all of us are going back in this life. Actually, I put my bet on my son that he drags me back more than me. But most of us are going to be there again, and we're going to have forgotten this. Whatever we're doing now, our seriousness and doing it, we're going to have forgotten. It's going to be wiped out. And it's not because we are born in a devotee family necessarily that seriousness is going to come back so easily. Of course, what we've done, Krishna will make sure that we keep. He'll make arrangement but I've seen it, firsthand. Sometimes devotee, I'm not sending my child to school for a reason, because I've been through that. I know what it is to be born in a devotee family and then go to a karmi school. So, of course, we all have different situations. Singapore has got some laws and this and that. But speaking from knowledge, our process is to speak from Shastra. I went through hell, literally, because I remember what it was to be at home with my Krishna conscious parents and, being raised as a devotee and then be sent to a karmi school. I was lost, I was completely lost. I was there and I could feel, you see, the karmi world is filled with envy, but the devotee world isn't. So I was seeing how my father was dealing with people and, deities were there at home. So envy was not much in the household. I was not experiencing that so much. But when I went to school, I was like, oh, what's going on? Children are like throwing things at each other and cursing and things like that. I was like, oh, where is this place? So, and slowly, okay, you become like them and you turn and slowly, then you develop all those qualities. So obviously I went astray. I still remember when I was 10, 11 years old telling my father, I said, Dad, I don't really believe in Krishna anymore. I don't think. So I saw my dad's face. That must have been a blow. So, but yeah, what do you expect? 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, every day. I was, 10 years ago, I was preaching to my nephew, teaching him about Krishna. He was 13 years old at that time. And he was asking me why there's so much problem in the world. So I said, because people are disconnected from God. People don't follow the instruction of the Lord. They want to live their life separated. So it so happened he went back to school and the question in his morality class was, why is there a problem in the world? He was like, oh, I know. He started to write, because people are not God conscious anymore, like that. He brought me back the paper with a huge 0 in red. I was furious, I wanted to cry. I was like, here's my nephew, 13-year-old, finally he's getting some little, enthusiasm for God consciousness. He goes back to school and the demonic envious teacher, I just imagine his face, talking about religion in my class, putting a big 0, Can you imagine? And this is the kind of teacher that they have, our children. and we want to send them to this. So therefore, my son, I was convinced, and I was like, I'm not sending him there. I don't care. My wife in the beginning, she was like, but he needs friends. I don't care. He has no friends. I prefer he's got no friends than these friends. And he's got friends anyway when he comes here, he's got his sister. Krishna will take care, And he knows how to read already. Just a half hour a day of English class online. He can read. He's only 5 years old. He reads very well. So this is not a problem. Now that he knows I know he will read and write properly, I have no anxiety at all. Other things, history, science and all, I don't care. So this is the issue, we're heading that way. So do we really want to start that again? Being wrapped up like this and you cannot move, you're in the dark. Tough thing, and then you come out and you cannot communicate. Babies are very angry because they cannot communicate. Do you remember that verse? Like boys try to do things and they cannot do it, therefore they become frustrated. I think it's a description maybe of Kapila Dev, who describes the movement of the living entity. So there's this verse in the Bhagavatam that speaks that why little children are so angry at times. Because they cannot do things, right? They try to reach something, it falls on their head, they try to do it, they're clumsy people, They cannot control their senses very well. So they're frustrated. Why? It's because this is the material energy that is upon them, it's blocking them. We want free enjoyment, we want to be able to be doing what we want. Desire and acting should not be two different things. Desire and act should be, together. That's the absolute platform. There should not be something blocking my desire. So we become angry when this occurs, and we can see it in little children. They, I got a nice toy, and then someone else grabs it away and starts to cry. I wanted to enjoy. My enjoyment is being blocked. Check. So anyway, so this seriousness has to be there, and therefore Srila Prabhupada says, in this life I shall finish my business and go back home, back to God. That is a very, a diamond-like desire we should develop. That let me try to finish this life. So one should be serious. So okay, we've reached the time. So I guess we'll be having Aarti, right? Kirtan is open soon. So is there any questions or comment? Anything someone would like to add or ask? We got an extra 5 minutes. Otherwise, we can read this last one here. Prabhupada says, determination means that one has to continue with patience and perseverance. I'm not getting the desired result. Oh, what is this Krishna consciousness? I give up. No, determination. It is a fact because Krishna is saying Krishna is saying this, it must happen. There is a nice example that a girl is married to a husband. She's hankering after a child. So if she thinks that now I'm married, I must have immediately a child. Is it possible? Just have patience. You just become faithful wives, serve your husband and let your love grown up. And because you are husband and wife, it is sure you'll have children, but don't be impatient. Similarly, when you are in Krishna consciousness, your perfection is guaranteed, but you'll have patience, determination, that I must execute. I should not be impatient. That impatience is due to loss of determination. And how that loss of determination is there? Due to excessive sex life. These are all consequences. So that's why sex life is always condemned in the scriptures, except for begetting Krishna conscious children. Out of the 3 ashrams, only the Grihastha ashram is given a license for sex life. Because when one engages in this lusty affairs, then spiritual life dwindles and vanishes. Right? This impatience is due to what? Loss of determination, and loss of determination, excessive sex. But that's why Srila Prabhupada says, one who gives up sex life, he's got strong determination. He often says that how Gandhi managed to do what he did is due to having given up sex life at an early age. So, okay, let's pray to Srila Prabhupada that we develop this seriousness in bhakti and determination. And let's pray that we can realize his instructions. He's speaking to us every day. He's trying to wake us up, trying to warn us of the impending danger that is ahead, which is to go through this again, one last, Who knows how many lifetime we've got left. So to try to finish the business in this life, if one can develop this strong desire, that is clearly a blessing of the Lord. But Krishna is testing. He wants to see our painstaking activity in service. So let us take shelter of Srila Prabhupada and pray that we realize his teachings. Jai Srila Prabhupada ki, Jai Bhagavad Gita ki, Jai Nitai Gaur Premanande.